Hey guys, what's up? Hope everybody's having a good day out there today, and thanks for tuning back into the channel. Much appreciated. And today I sort of want to do a Veterans Day salute and sort of share with you guys some experiences I've had with being around veterans, fishing with veterans, spending a lot of time bass fishing in particular with veterans, and what I've seen it do to combat veterans that have been exposed to a lot of the stuff that none of us can probably even imagine what's like. And I think it might find you guys interesting and appropriate on this day. So first of all, before I get into it, I just want to say a little bit about it. It's like, war is the most stupid thing that mankind could possibly do. I mean, it's just like, you think by now we would have transcended the, that action, through just being able to get along in diplomacy, but obviously not. I do think that most wars are preventable. I think that a lot of the politicians that get us in wars, most of them have never served. Most of them would never put themselves or their children in that role of danger that so many of our veterans have to go through. So I think that if they had to get out there if they were the ones doing the fight, and they'd think twice about getting us into conflicts. So with that being said, I'll tell you guys a little bit about my experiences with it. A lot of my experiences with veterans and fishing and what it can do for them came through my, really close friend, Sergeant Major Rodney Schmolak, United States Army Ranger veteran for 30 years. In fact, the thumbnail in this picture is the picture of when Rodney won his first Silver Star in Vietnam. And, I fished with Rodney. He was a co-angler on the FLW circuit for 7 years. And we fished together every practice. We traveled together, stayed together in a lot of tournaments, stayed at his house. We became extremely close friends over the 7 years that I knew him. Rodney passed away a couple of years ago from some of the side effects of Agent Orange in Vietnam. But I got to spend a lot of time with him. And throughout the course of those years, I got to hear a lot about Rodney's 3 tours in Vietnam, 3 combat tours with the Rangers. And also, he lived right there close to Fort Benning in Georgia, which was the, one of the Army Ranger depots there in Georgia. And a lot of his friends that were in the Rangers at the time, the whole Iraq-Afghanistan deal was sort of at the height of its deal. And Rodney knew a lot of the active duty Rangers, and any time that they would come home from leave from Iraq or Afghanistan, Rodney would invite them to come fishing with us. So I got a chance to fish with a lot of active duty combat Rangers through the course of those 7 years. Spent a lot of time talking to him and everything. And particularly for Rodney and those other Rangers that have experienced a lot of intense combat, I saw firsthand the healing effect that bass fishing had to them. I mean, there was like I said, I can only imagine, what the mental and physical and emotional toll of being in a combat situation and everything that goes along with it, not just combat, but everything about being in the service, being away from home, the uncertainty, dealing with death all the day. It's a experience that most people can't even grasp. I only got a glimpse of it from a lot of the stuff Rodney shared with me about his combat experiences. But I saw firsthand with Rodney and the other Rangers about when they get out there in nature, get out there on the water, get away from everything, how therapeutic it was. I mean, it was a release, a much needed release. And it sort of like brought them back and centered them a little bit from this horrific, surreal world many of them had been in. And from that standpoint, it's just like every single, Ranger that I fished with, including Rodney, it's like when we came off the water at the end of the day, you could just tell that they were just so much more relaxed. It was just like, it was a much needed, escape that stayed with them. Didn't really matter if you caught fish or not. Catching fish was a bonus, obviously, but a lot of it was just the process of getting out there and just, getting away from it all. And also, in addition to that, there was several years that I was involved with the Wounded Warrior program, where you know, they had events, tournaments for Wounded Warriors, and what they needed is a lot of Bass Pros volunteered, you know, to take these Wounded Warriors fishing. Myself, Brent Chapman, you know, several other anglers were involved in some of these Wounded Warrior benefits. And you know, I had a chance to fish with you know, some guys that were recovering from some extremely severe injuries in Iraq, head injuries, you know, gunshot wounds, you know, IUDs, you know, different type of injuries over there. And yeah, you know, I'm not going to go into detail about, you know, the story, what they shared with me, but I do know that one of the combat veterans I took out, he had been recovering from a traumatic head injury from a sniper bullet. And, you know, he had, it's, you know, what the guy had went through, and physically the rehabilitation that had over the course of 3 years, and, you know, injuries that was going to stay with him the rest of his life, that made him where he couldn't really function a normal life. But the day that we spent out on the water in some of those tournaments with those guys, it was the same thing. You could just tell that, just like, it was almost like, you know, it was like a relaxation that every one of them responded to. And from that standpoint, I just think it's so great, you know, to if you guys have a chance to take any veterans out, you know, combat veterans that have been, you know, through that, take up the opportunity to do that. It is so rewarding to do that. It is so, you know, good to see that those guys, for what they've been through and what they've done for everybody, to get them out there and to give something back, and to see them return to some sense of normalcy, you know, emotionally and mentally, even if it's just for a small amount of time on the water. You know, a lot of that stuff, I'm sure, comes back to him after that. But, you know, the times that I have fished with them, and I've fished with a lot of combat veterans over the course of the last 20 years, and every one of them, without exception, have been the same situation. I mean, it was like they came from that experience with, you know, recharged, rejuvenated, you know, a little bit more peace, you know, than for as much as they could possibly have. But anyway, I got an open invitation. If there's any, you know, combat veterans out there that ever, you know, have a fishing question, feel free, guys, to go on my Facebook page, Randy Blockett Professional Angler. Shoot me your question. I'd be more than happy to answer every single one of them. Like I said, I want to thank everybody out there for their service, that they've done it. You know, most people don't have any idea what those guys are going through, and it's much appreciated. And like I said, the reasons that we go to war, the fact that, you know, the whole reality of war, even if it's motivated through corporate greed or entities that have nothing to do with protecting freedom or something like that, it doesn't really make any difference, because these guys went out and did what they had to do, regardless, you know, of what the underlying motives of the combat mission was. So that's the way I look at it, is you know, they go through things, like I said, that nobody should ever have to go through. And I know this, like I said, because I've been good friends with a lot of them. You know, I've talked to them. You know, they've shared their most deepest, darkest, intimate secrets of war. I've been really fortunate that they've trusted me enough to do that. And I can tell you right now, guys, it's like, you don't want any part of it, what a lot of those guys have went through. So anyway, just a quick video, guys, here on Veterans Day. If you guys get a chance to take any veterans out fishing, do so. It's a great thing to do. They deserve it. They deserve, you know, whatever, you know, peace and tranquility and well-being and groundedness that they can possibly get after going through all that stuff. Anyway, thanks again for tuning into the video. Much appreciated, guys, and we'll talk later. See you.